The movie kicks off in 2016 in India, right after the 31st Olympic Games in Rio, Brazil. We quickly learned that India managed to win only 2 Olympic medals, and that completely frustrates the country's Minister of Youth and Sports. During a heated press conference, he blasts every official in the room. He yells, "How can a country as huge as India, with over 1 billion people, produce only 2 medals? This is embarrassing." He goes on to say that people no longer care about sports anymore. Everyone is glued to their phones instead of taking care of their health or training to become athletes. Then he gives everyone an ultimatum. They have 1 week to come up with a real solution. Otherwise, he'll shut down every sports academy in the country and sell them off to private investors. Outside the conference, we meet Baisal, who believes this isn't just a loss for the athletes, it's a loss for the entire nation. While driving, he notices a bus packed with young athletes, so he decides to follow it. The bus arrives at a huge sports ground, where different competitions are taking place, including cricket, wrestling, and track events. Curious, Baisal starts asking every athlete the same question. Who's your biggest sports idol? Surprisingly, every single one of them gives the exact same answer. Bhima. Baisal is completely shocked. Wait, the same guy is a legend in all these different sports. One of the athletes points to a massive rock nearby and says, "See that rock? A cricket ball Bhima hit landed right there." Baisal shrugs and asks, "So what's the big deal?" The athlete smiles and replies, "The ball came all the way from 3 stadiums away." At that moment, Baisal knows he has to meet this mysterious man. "Take me to him right now." The athlete agrees, but there's one problem. We can't drive to where he lives. Once the road ends, we'll have to continue on foot. As they begin their long walk, the athlete starts telling Baisal the incredible story of the man known as Bhima. And that's when the movie flashes back to 1990. In the village of Vizianagaram, back in 1990, the entire village was obsessed with cricket. We meet Rambhoji, the nephew of the powerful businessman Rao, as he makes a huge bet with his longtime rival, Bobili. But the bet isn't about money. It's about one man, Bhima. The match gets underway, and both teams are neck and neck. Everything is going great until Bobili's team starts crushing Rambhoji's side. Desperate, Rambhoji asks, "Where's Bhima?" That's when we find out Bhima is working as a cook. A few moments later, the crowd suddenly erupts with excitement. The legend himself finally arrives. To the people, Bhima isn't just another player. He's a hero. He walks onto the field carrying his bat, and from the very first swing, he sends the ball flying so high that nobody can even get close to catching it. He completely destroys the opposing team, dominates the entire game, and turns the match upside down. By the end, he carries his team to victory. The crowd goes absolutely wild. Everyone cheers his name, dances, sings, and celebrates in true Indian style. We also learn that Bhima is an incredible cook, famous for making a special sugarcane dessert that no one else can make. But despite all his talent, Bhima belongs to a group of migrant workers known as the Plains people. They came to this village looking for work, but instead, they were treated like second-class citizens. They were paid only half the wages the villagers earned. They were forced to do jobs that even animals wouldn't be expected to do. On top of that, they were charged money just to sleep, eat, and even drink soup. Their lives were nothing but exploitation and humiliation. The worst part? Their home village didn't even exist on the official map. The government didn't recognize it. There were no roads, no transportation, and no public services. The only way to reach their village was by walking for several days. A little later, we see an old train making its way through the countryside. Standing beside the tracks is an elderly man named Suri, desperately waving a red flag, hoping the train will stop. But as soon as the driver spots him, he tells his assistant, "Don't stop. Whenever you see that old man, just keep going." That's when we learn that Suri is from Bhima's village. His lifelong dream is incredibly simple. He just wants some kind of transportation that can connect their forgotten village to the outside world. Right now, the villagers have no choice but to walk for days just to reach the nearest town. They've begged the Ministry of Transport countless times to build a railway stop or provide any form of transportation, but every single request has been rejected. Even so, Bhima never loses hope. He keeps telling everyone, "One day, We'll have our own transportation. And one day the government will finally recognize our village. Later, everyone finally makes it back home. Bhima greets his mother before sitting down to eat. While joking around, he tells her, "Mom, I'm already 30 years old. At this rate, I'm gonna grow old before I ever get married." His mother sighs and replies, "We've already visited 16 different brides, and every proposal has fallen apart." But Bhima just smiles. "This time will be different. I'm sure of it." He tells her that he's finally met a girl he really likes and asks her to get ready because they're going to ask for her hand in marriage the very next day. That same night, we're introduced to Adya, the beautiful daughter of businessman Raju. Her father is running in the local election against the powerful Rao. Secretly, Adya sets fire to her own family's sugarcane fields. Why? Because she wants everyone to believe that Rao ordered the attack to scare people into not voting against him. If the villagers believe that story, they'll sympathize with her father, and those sympathy votes could be enough to win him the election. The next morning, Bhima heads out with his family to visit the bride's house. But before they get there, he notices Adya sitting on the roadside, crying in front of a huge crowd. She tearfully tells everyone what supposedly happened and says, "Is this really how Rao treats us? Is this what we deserve? Elections are supposed to be fair. So why would he do something like this?" Of course, it's all an act. She's putting on a perfect performance, and the entire crowd falls for it. But the moment Bhima sees her, he falls for her too, completely. He can't take his eyes off her and even starts flirting with her from a distance while she continues winning the hearts of everyone around her. Soon, the crowd is chanting her name. A few days later, Bhima is relaxing in a jacuzzi when one of his friends rushes over with some news. Adya is throwing a huge feast today. The whole village has been invited. The moment Bhima hears that, he knows this is his chance. He's finally going to tell her how he feels. That night, the celebration is in full swing. Music is playing, people are laughing, and everyone is having a great time. Bhima secretly asks his friend to cut the power. The second the lights go out, he leans in, kisses Adya, and disappears into the darkness before anyone notices. Adya is left completely stunned. She has no idea who kissed her. Still trying to keep her composure, she walks back onto the stage to continue her speech. But it's obvious she's shaken by what just happened. Watching everything from the crowd is Ramhoji, who is running against Adya's father in the upcoming election. He's already furious at how much support she's gaining, so he tells his men to ruin the event. They rush onto the stage, start harassing her, and in the middle of the chaos, one of them tears her dress. The crowd freezes in shock. But before anyone can see her, Bhima reacts instantly. He throws a large tent cover over her, protecting her from everyone's eyes. Adya breaks down in tears, humiliated by what just happened. A little later, a photographer proudly shows Ramhoji several pictures he secretly took of Adya during the incident. Smirking, Ramhoji says, "Print every single one of them. I want those pictures spread everywhere. We'll destroy her reputation." What he doesn't realize is that the ghost of the night has already arrived. Under the cover of darkness, Bhima storms in like a force of nature. He beats every single man in sight without showing the slightest bit of mercy. Anyone who stands in his way gets knocked flat. The gang lights a fire, hoping to identify the mysterious attacker. And when they finally recognize Bhima, he stares at the man who tore Adya's clothes and says, "You stripped her in front of everyone. Now it's your turn." Meanwhile, as the photographer starts printing the photos, Bhima sets the entire place on fire. Then he turns his attention to Ramhoji and his men. He beats them mercilessly before dragging the man responsible into the forest, stripping him naked and hanging him from a tree as payback for what he did. The next morning, we meet the legendary wrestling coach Gurnadu. He's training his star student, Bahadur, who easily defeats his opponent and wins the championship. Everyone celebrates the victory, except Gurnadu. Instead of looking happy, he looks disappointed. Confused, Bahadur asks, "Coach, we won. Why do you look upset?" Gurnadu calmly replies, "Winning isn't everything. What matters is keeping the true spirit of the sport alive." That night, another auction is held between Ramhoji and Bobili to decide which team gets to sign Bhima. Everyone expects a fierce bidding war. But then something unbelievable happens. Bobili raises his hand and offers just 1 rupee. The entire crowd falls silent. Ramhoji doesn't even bother making a higher offer. People can't believe what they're seeing. How can the most famous cricket player around be worth only 1 rupee? But Bhima doesn't say a word. Instead, he quietly tells Suri, "My answer will be on the field." The match begins. But every time Bhima tries to step onto the field and help his team, Bobili refuses to let him play. Instead, he humiliates him in front of everyone. That's when we discover the ugly truth. Ramhoji and Bobili secretly planned this together. After everything Bhima did to them, they wanted to destroy his reputation, make people lose respect for him, and prove that he was worth nothing. But did they really think Bhima would stay silent? Not a chance. With his trademark confidence, he finally steps onto the field. And from that moment on, everything changes. He starts taking over the game all by himself. The crazy part is that both teams are practically playing against him. He's fighting alone. Even with everyone trying to stop him, nobody can keep up. He dominates the match and gets closer and closer to pulling off the impossible. But in the end, his own teammates let him down and the team loses. The crowd is heartbroken. Still, instead of blaming Bhima, they begin chanting his name louder than ever. They know exactly what happened. They know he was betrayed. Watching from the stands is the legendary wrestling coach Gurnadu. He's amazed by Bhima's popularity. Meanwhile, Ramhoji walks over with a smug grin and says, "Looks like you've forgotten who you really are. You're nothing but a servant working for us. We pay your wages. And in the end, you're only worth 1 rupee." Those words hit Bhima hard. Without saying a single word, he snaps his cricket bat in half. Just then, Gurnadu approaches him and asks, "What do you think about learning wrestling?" Bhima's first question is simple. "How much will you pay me per day?" The coach can't help but laugh. "You fool. Is money really all you think about? Listen to those people. Hear them chanting your name. You're more than an athlete. You could become a national icon. Your value is far greater than money." With that, Gurnadu walks away. But his words stay with Bhima. And for the first time, they truly begin to change the way he sees himself. Back in the present, the man guiding Baisal tells him that Bhima's story didn't end on the cricket field. Something tragic happened in his village. And that's where the story takes another heartbreaking turn. The story jumps back to the past. While the villagers are returning home from work, disaster suddenly strikes. Without any warning, part of the mountain collapses. Huge rocks come crashing down, injuring dozens of people. Then the worst happens. A little boy is trapped beneath the rubble and dies before anyone can save him. The entire village is left in tears. Determined to stop this from happening again, Suri goes to meet a member of the legislative council. He pleads with him, "Please, listen to me. There are over 1,800 people in our village whose lives are hanging by a thread. We desperately need a train stop to shorten the journey between our village and the nearest town." At first, the official seems willing to help. But the moment he learns that their village has no voting rights, his attitude changes completely. "I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do for you." Suri refuses to give up. He begs him again, explaining that people in their village die every year simply because they can't reach a hospital in time. Whenever someone gets seriously sick, all the villagers can do is sit beside them and wait for them to die. They have no future, no healthcare, no transportation, no hope. But none of those words move the politician. As he's about to leave, Suri grabs his clothes, begging him not to walk away. The security guards immediately rush in and beat the old man mercilessly. A while later, Bhima tells Suri to forget about what happened. But Suri is completely broken. After spending 30 years fighting for his people, he's finally reached his limit. He grabs a red flag and walks onto the railway tracks. This time, he's determined to stop the train with his own body. Even as the train races toward him, the driver refuses to brake. At the very last second, Bhima throws himself forward and saves Suri. But the impact sends Bhima flying, leaving him badly injured. Taking him to a hospital isn't even an option. It's simply too far away. Through tears, Suri tells everyone, "For 30 years, I've been trying to stop that train, hoping one day it would bring transportation to our village. We've been treated like slaves our entire lives. We work twice as hard, yet we're paid only half as much. To this country, we're worth less than nothing." He looks at the villagers one last time. The people aren't the real problem. The government is. They refuse to even recognize that we exist. Then he quietly says, "I always dreamed that one day we'd have a hospital, a school, and a train that could finally connect us to the rest of the world. But it looks like I'll die before I ever see that day. With his final breath, Suri begs everyone, never give up your rights. And just like that, Suri passes away before his dream ever becomes reality. The villagers are overwhelmed with grief and rage. They march to the railway tracks, rip them apart, and destroy everything in sight. Before long, the police arrive. Without hesitation, they charge into the crowd. Men, women, it doesn't matter. Anyone in their way is beaten without mercy. The officers treat them like animals, shouting that people like them have no value. One villager falls to his knees, begging the police to let them take Suri's body home. But the officer coldly replies, "No, you won't be taking the body. We'll deal with it ourselves." The villagers are horrified. That's when Bhima steps forward. "Suri is coming home with us, and nobody is going to stop us." The police officer stares at Bhima with a mocking smile. "And who do you think you are? You're nobody. You don't even have an official identity." Bhima doesn't back down for a second. He looks the officer straight in the eye and says, "You don't know who I am? I'm Bhima. Wherever I go, people stand up and cheer. I'm more famous than the leaders running this country." The officer laughs. "You've got a lot of guts." Then he orders his men, "Take the body." The officers move towards Suri's body, but Bhima refuses to let anyone touch him. He throws himself into the middle of the crowd and fights off every officer who comes near. One after another, they hit the ground. No matter how many come at him, he refuses to give up. Finally, the officer loses his patience. He points a gun toward the villagers and shouts, "If you don't stop right now, I'll make your entire village pay for this." Bhima freezes. He knows that if he keeps fighting, innocent people will die. With a heavy heart, he lets go, not because he lost, but because protecting his people means more to him than winning a fight. As the villagers return home carrying nothing but grief, Bhima makes a life-changing decision. He heads straight to the legendary wrestling coach, Grenadu. When he arrives, the coach refuses to see him. To Grenadu, Bhima is still just another man chasing money. One of the students even attacks him, trying to drive him away. But Bhima refuses to leave. No matter how many students surround him, he stands his ground. Then he raises his voice and says, "Coach, I didn't come here for money. I came because I want you to teach me wrestling. I want the strength to protect myself and to protect my people." He sincerely begs the coach to accept him. Grenadu looks him in the eyes and replies, "Wrestling isn't like cricket. This isn't a game where you swing a bat and walk away. Every match is a battle, and every battle brings you face to face with death." The students continue pushing Bhima around, trying to force him out. Then the coach asks one simple question. "So, are you staying or are you leaving?" Bhima slowly pulls his arm free from the crowd. A determined smile appears on his face. The beast has finally awakened, and everyone around him is about to find out exactly who they're dealing with. Training begins the next day.